that is the cool thing about Restream. Like before all these videos started with me just like typing on 4 different keyboards, like, okay, I think this is gonna work. And like now it's just like, all right, it's a button. The only problem is I have to wait until I like get here, just because it's like so easy to like hop on these things, and like so to like keep that limited, I just wait until I get here this morning. So it's a little bit weird, but thank you for being a good sport. How was Montana? You just like got back, didn't you?
Yeah, I was only there for like 3.5 days, but it was really fun. I was hanging out with my sister who moved out there during the beginning of COVID. So this is like the first time that we actually have gotten to see each other in like a year and a half. So, and we're pretty tight. So
yeah.
It was snowing and it was like 35 degrees overnight every night. So it was like a little bit of a bummer, but we did.
Well, I mean, at least you have mountains to like kind of make up for that. And I bet your sister loves it because she's all into like fishing and stuff. So
yeah, she's like a hardcore fly fisher. So I don't think she's ever going to move back here. She actually just is selling her house that I'm living in right now because we are
no way.
House next week. So yeah, she's like cutting all of the ties to Minnesota, which good for her. Like she loves it out there. So I think she's pretty stoked to stay. So it was fun to visit. Got to see some cool stuff.
Is it like did she pick like Bozeman, or did she just pick like a small town of 300 and it's just like, nah, nothing?
Yeah, she's in Bozeman. Okay. Her partner lives there, so it made sense for her to.
Yeah, like I've heard good things about Bozeman, and pre-COVID, I was fixing to go out there because one of the former station managers of KFAI had radio connections out there, and was just like, oh my god, like you got to go to this one place, like they would love you, and it's just like, yeah, let's do it, and it's just like, yeah, nothing happened.
Yeah,
like all that like fell through for a while, but I would like to get out there eventually. I don't know. I totally feel anyone on the desire to just cut ties and be like, you know what, this is life. This is life for me. I don't miss any of the pre-COVID nonsense.
Yeah, Bozeman seems cool. It's interesting. She doesn't spend a lot of time like in town because she's like just like fishing all the time. So it's not super clear to me what the vibe is there. But I would say Montana is a little bit of a Wild West. Like, like a lot of folks there didn't seem to really believe that COVID was real.
Yeah.
So there's that. And, like people really like hate wearing masks and don't, it's kind of like, it's definitely got that kind of like libertarian leaning.
Sure.
That being said, there's some really good people there.
Oh yeah, I've met great people from Montana, and I bet the nature is crazy, like to the point where it's like if you don't want to see people, you don't really need to, and there's plenty of stuff that will occupy your time. Like between, I've never fly fished. I've heard it's really hard. I don't think that's like something I could just jump into, but hiking for sure. I'm actually allergic to horses, which is like the most city slicker thing I could ever admit. I'm just like, but it's true. I'm allergic to horses. I can't ride them, but I can walk. I can do that. But I'd be all about that.
Well, and it's like near her house there in just outside of Bozeman, like you drive down the street and there's like a great stream to go fly fishing in. Like it's like you said, everywhere. Nature is everywhere. Like you just get to experience all of it and like hardly walk out your door. So pretty special. So I love to go back when the weather is better than it was when I was there. But
yeah, you will.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. And it would be nice to bring Justin with. He really wants to go to Montana. He says hello, by the way. Hey,
Justin.
He was like, tell Doc I say hi. So I'm just relaying.
Hey, Justin.
But yeah.
So like you're going to be moving out of the house pretty soon. Are you looking to buy, or are you looking to...
Yeah, we're closing on a house a week from today, actually.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
That's insane in this economy. But no, like seriously, congrats.
I know, we really lucked out. Real estate is just kind of crazy in the Twin Cities. I mean, it's kind of crazy everywhere right now.
Yeah.
But we lucked out and got, I think it was our third offer. Like most people are submitting like 10, 12, 15 offers before they get something. And we got it on our third. So we're moving to Columbia Heights. So technically I won't be a Hennepin County, Minneapolis resident anymore, but it's actually the second time I'll have owned a house in Columbia Heights. So I'm excited about it. Yeah, and it has this like crazy huge basement that has like tiled floors. We're gonna make a mix room out of one of them, and we're gonna make.
I was just about to ask, like, is that gonna be a studio?
Yeah, for sure, it's gonna be half studio, half like we both like playing the PS4 and like Wolfenstein and Horizon Zero Dawn. So we're gonna
stand by. We're about to go back on the air here.
Standing by.
All right, so we had some Herbie Hancock there. We also had some Blake Mills and Bill Callahan. And if you are online, we have Brianna right here, right now. But let's just talk about what is streaming and in person. We have in-person shows to talk about. So tonight, Mikkel Beckman and Charlie Parr are going to be at the Midway Saloon. Seating is limited, so please be respectful if that runs out, because Charlie Parr is going to be on the back catalog listening party this Friday. So if you miss out, please don't try to squeeze in. Just be respectful of that establishment so they can keep having shows. Thursday, Javier Trejo is going to continue his residency at the Midway Saloon as well. Laura Hugo is going to be on the 331 patio on Thursday. Friday, Monica LaPlante, Moonbato, and Warcake at the Hook and Ladder Theater. Becky Capel's birthday bash at Palmer's, and the Gentlemen's Anti-Temperance League with the Good Time Gals at Dayblock Brewing. That's all on Friday. Saturday, we have Bands on Vans, the Black Velvet Punks. Taylor is actually coming back from Chicago, so you'll get to see them. And I believe the classic lineup of Black Velvet Punks on top of a van driving around in Northeast. So check that out where you can. Sunday, Galen Lee is going to continue her live stream series. We also have Alicia Kay of the Change-Ups and Elizabeth Gondor of Elore performing Sunday at the Dubliner. Think I missed something, or you just want to hear me mispronounce your band name on the air, email it to desertislandskfai@gmail.com. That is desertislandskfai@gmail.com. I curate that whole segment from what you send me, so please keep emailing me stuff. Also, the social medias are fine. If you find me on there, that is totally acceptable. I try to look at all of it, but please keep sending me it. I am trying not to ignore you. I swear I'm not ignoring you. Sometimes I just don't see it until it's too late. So let's get down to business here. I have Brianna Kocka with me, both live and on the radio right now. How are you doing, Brianna?
I am doing really well. Thanks for having me, Doc. How are you?
Thanks for thanks for coming back. I feel like this isn't your first time on the show. Is this 3 at this point?
This is 2. This is number 2.
This is 2? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the last time I was on the show, we were prepping for Palmer's residency, and so that was probably 2.5 years ago. It's been a while. Thanks for having me back.
I mean, I'm just as surprised as you that I've had a radio show this long. So
hey, it's a great show. We all love it. It's so fun.
Oh, thank you for coming back on it.
Yeah.
Well, I love doing it because one, I get to be introduced to new stuff, but two, I said when I did this radio show, because I've done, like we've been on the road, what it's like doing awkward radio segments where it's just like, so Alice, where'd you come up with the band name? It's just like I feel like that is a more honest question, because if you haven't noticed, sometimes we don't even bring up what is on the desert island list at all. Sometimes we just let it play in the background, we just vibe. But I think that is a way more intimate question. Like, what is the music that formulated you, either as a person, as an artist, or just a literal answer to the question. So I didn't want to have a show that I would feel uncomfortable coming on, and I feel really lucky that people feel comfortable coming on again. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
You just released a new record, and it's available now on streaming services. But my question is, how did you get? Is the vinyl ready for purchase?
The vinyl is ready. Only 7 copies left.
How did you get it? Like, even Taylor Swift has to wait for vinyl. How did you manage to get yours?
Yeah, so I mean, I have more connections than Taylor, apparently.
Nice.
She's amazing. I'm obsessed with her newest records. But I actually did a short run pressing of vinyl. So it's actually lathe cut, so it's not pressed vinyl. It's lathe cut. It's I only did 50 records.
Okay.
And I used a small batch company out of Ohio called, I think it's Little Elephant, White Elephant. Let me Google that. Which is pathetic that I can't remember.
No, it's fine.
But they are amazing. The owner, it's like a one-man shop. Maybe there's 2 dudes. Yeah. Let me see here.
White Elephant?
I think it's it's Little Elephant.
Little Elephant, okay.
Custom vinyl, I believe.
This is good information as far as, like, because I know a lot of like DIY musicians listen to this show, so they're probably like, okay, I'm gonna look that up.
You probably can't see that on my phone. It's Little Elephant Custom Vinyl. It's out of Ohio. It was an 8-week turnaround.
Whoa.
So, I just, the thing about this record is I have been sitting on it for a lot longer than it's been out in the world, because I wanted to make sure I had the vinyl like ready before I started promoting it. Because I was like, the last thing I want to do is like not have vinyls to send people.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So I pre-sold like 35 copies, and then like the rest up to the 42 that I have already sold after the record came out, which it's been a week and a half now. So yeah, there's only 7 copies left. It's kind of bonkers. And I have debated, like, if there's like a desire for people to really want more, I would probably do another pressing, but I'm just reluctant because it costs a lot of money. I'm not actually even making any money on the record. I'm breaking even. So I'm happy to do it, but only if people want it. So we'll see.
Well, I love the model of this, because like I think a theme that a lot of people have been talking about, especially pandemic and looking forward, has been sustainability, because this is expensive. It's totally expensive. And I think people don't realize that, like, even bands that are household names are going through this. We're going to break even on this, and then hopefully we can, like, that's just the reality of this whole thing. And so from a financial standpoint, I love what you're doing, because one, you're kind of like keeping costs reasonable, but also keeping it sustainable for listeners as well, where it's just like, hey, like, I want you to be a part of this community, and we're only going to do like a run of what's called for. But also a thing that or at least I've been worried about, and I know a few artists echo my sentiment, is as much as I love vinyl, it's kind of a bummer that all the oil and petroleum you need to like make one, where it's just like, oh, cool. Oh no. And then like it's wrapped in cellophane and all these other things. So it's just like keeping it to just now that we can stream anything anywhere, like I like doing small limited runs, and it's just like, oh, if we want to do more, like we can fit the demand rather than this weird model that where it used to be, where it's just like, hey, I was wondering if you could press this record for us. No, you need to order 1,000 copies first. It's just like, who wants 1,000 copies of anything?
It's crazy. Like, it's, you know, that model of like pressing 1,000 copies was, I feel like it was partially built out of this like this boom era up until like the 90s, when like artists were getting signed like crazy and getting deals like crazy. And so like there was this expectation that, you know, you kind of went with like the bulk option, but I'm not trying to pretend like I'm some huge artist. I'm like, I have 50 copies. If you want one, you better get one. And then they'll probably never be pressed again. And I think there's something kind of novel about like, this is a limited edition. There's only 50 in the world. They're, you know, single-sided 12-inch vinyl, which is super rare and random too. And it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I think from even, like you're talking about like a sustainability perspective, you have to be mindful of that during the day that we're living in, like creating more waste. Like, you know, how many of my friends have pressed 100 or 1,000 CDs and they're all in plastic jewel cases, and that like over half of them go into the dumpster 5 to 10 years later because people don't buy them. Like, it's just not worth it. So it's all about doing the small run stuff and being mindful. I would be curious to know like what the carbon footprint is for vinyl versus like CD versus cassette versus streaming, because all are taking up, you know, carbon emission space. But I'm not
absolutely
sure. So
I think some of us want to hope that other mediums are more efficient, but I don't think they are. I think they're all just as bad.
I mean, like, I've been doing a lot of like reading and research on NFTs because people are so into that right now. And like, I don't know if you're familiar, but like the amount of computing power it takes to just like do the mathematical gymnastics for an NFT to be a thing in the world is like the carbon emissions are bonkers.
It's insane.
I can't remember where I read it or what I read, but I swear it was like something equivalent to like your energy bill for up to a month to make a computer do the stuff to make an NFT a thing. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, we all know there's a climate crisis. Like, why is this a thing? And of course, artists are just moving on because it's like the new hot thing. And I think it's
I don't think we know what we're doing. I think that's what's going on.
Totally. I mean, the reality is like I feel like technologically as humans, we always do the new advancement before we even ask ourselves if it's the right thing, if it's gonna be painful culturally, societally, globally. Yeah, it's too bad.
Well, let's use this as a perfect segue because I want to play this tune, All the Questions I Have Right Now. So this is off of your new EP. So if you like what you hear it again. It is on all the streaming services. And if you're lucky, you can pick up one of the 7 copies left available. So here is new Brianna Kocka here on KFAI. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay, cool. It's like I did a whole show when we were switching to this service where it's just like we could hear each other, but there was no audio for everyone else. So like it was just 2 straight hours of like but like it was like a really good conversation, but like there were like comments of just like, wish we could hear what's going on. Like, so now I'm like paranoid about like, can you still hear me? Is anybody out there? Is anybody awake? So the NFT thing, I totally think that's cool and all. And I get that, like, because the whole thing where crypto started was like, okay, we need to get back at this unequal playing field.
Yeah.
And now all the big banks are like, oh yeah, Bitcoin. It's just like, that was the opposite of what we're doing. So as far as NFTs are going, like they're trying to like market it as like, oh, this is the future. This is more environmentally feasible. It's not. And right now, like, I like where the technology's heart is at, but I think it's just a money laundering scam for the rich. Like, I think it's just like people are throwing down like millions of dollars and the public will be like, oh, this is the hot new thing, where like the elites are kind of going like, so how do I make sure I don't pay $6 million in taxes? Oh, just put $5 million into this into this very nebulous, easily laundered pile of everybody's money. And I go back and forth on it, because I do think we can do something cool with this idea, but I think this is like the first draft. I think we can workshop. I think blockchain tech has a little bit more promise than what's being done with it now, but also I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be some expert on the blockchain. I certainly have done some reading, but like, from what I understand, like, it is a cool idea to be able to like actually have like an economic system that kind of like lives with like supply and demand, but from a tech, like from just like a energy usage perspective, it's like, geez Louise, like this is not good for us to be like computing such crazy stuff.
I think before it got started, it was just like, oh, this is the perfect alternative, and nobody saw what was going to happen when like the percentage of people using it per capita just went through the roof. And now it's like, now it's a new problem, which I'm sure we'll figure it out. But like, I don't know. Like, it's just every time I hear someone talk about like, what do you think the future of the music business is? I'm like, does the music business have a future? I don't know. That's a perfectly valid question to ask. Like, most of the artists I talk to, like, kind of have the similar mindset of we're getting at, of just like, I don't know, man. I just want to break even. That'd be great. I'm not really like, I guess the idea is to, I don't know what the idea is. I mean,
I think it just depends on what you're trying to do, right? Like, some folks are really trying to make their art a business because capitalism, and some people aren't, you know, like, I don't know. I'm trying to just take like really calculated steps in my business model as an artist, because I do this because it matters, like, in my soul, you know, like, yes, I can't not do it. But also, like, would it be great if I could be a full-time artist and this is how I made my living? Absolutely. Do I hate capitalism? 100%. Like, trying to marry all these things and like not feel like you're being just completely snuffed out by this capitalistic prospect, I think is really hard. And I think that's why like a lot of artists are just like, I'm just gonna try to like make this break even, because then I do the thing I love, and some people get to enjoy it, and it becomes more of like a local sustainable model instead of this like global thing. Like, I'm never going to be a Taylor Swift. I'm never going to be a Justin Bieber. I'm, you know, like, and honestly, I don't know that I would ever want to be. Like, it seems like a very hard life where you're just on the road constantly. You're managing people's expectations. It's really hard on your body to be like,
it's very hard
time. And like, just like the fact that you're like playing instruments, using your physical body to sing constantly, it's really hard. And I think people don't really consider that. They think it's maybe easier than it is. And I call that bluff 100%.
Yeah. So. I think the only other entertainment racket that gets more hecklers of that regard, of just like, well, how, like, it looks easy, I could do that, is like, I think now that stand-up comedy is becoming like popular again, that might be worse, where people are like, all they do is just talk, like, I could do that. Or like, I think people are at least coming around to like, oh, they're really talented, I can't play guitar.
Well, like, let's talk about comedians for a second, because literally people who are like, they're just talking. I'm like, have you ever tried to write a joke? Because it's truly
so hard.
Really hard. It's so hard. You have to be so thoughtful. You have to be paying attention to the world around you all the time to come up with weird little quippy things. I mean, depending on how you do your comedy. And then you have to like deliver it in a way where it's like perfectly balanced. So you have like quiet space and like not quiet space, and you're like playing off of the room. It's not easy. Being on any stage in front of people requires a total level of like crazy professionalism that people don't really even understand. It's a total project. I think maybe that's why I don't play a lot of live shows anymore, because I'm really bad at it.
No, I think everyone just kind of has their own style of doing it, and because there's like so much tape on everybody, like that's another thing. I don't understand how stand-up comedians handle their sets getting taped, because like I have video of me that I'm embarrassed by, but I at least kind of like shrug it off and be like, oh, if they come to the show, like they'll, you know, like people can understand. They're like, oh, that's just like, that's not even a good version. You got to hear this version. Like if a comedian is like,
you're like, that's the version.
Yeah, like if someone like sees them workshopping a joke, they're like, see, they're not even funny anymore. You know, it's just like, and they need an audience to workshop material where we can just kind of hide in our bedroom until we're like, I think that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll try playing it. Yeah. And now that there's like so much tape on everybody, like there's definitely performers who are captivating, like that really like terrible stage banter, like terrible stage banter, but the show is amazing because it doesn't matter, where it's just like, I wouldn't even know what to do if I was like on, like, because I think if musicians have like someone like filming their stuff and putting it on the internet, like even if it's terrible, that kind of works in our favor, where like that can kill a comedian's career straight up, like especially if they say a wrong word or there's like a slip of the tongue where like it's a word that sounds like another word and now that's like out there forever, where like musicians at least get the benefit of the doubt of like, oh, that's probably, oh, they probably just played the wrong chord or something. But yeah, I don't think it's about good or bad as much as different. And like we at least have instruments we can hide behind.
Yeah.
They don't. Like it's just them. It's like a caged rat with a microphone against, and they have to talk their way out of it. That's insane.
That was like one of like, I think you're totally right about like some musicians do definitely have like things they can hide behind, because like when I was in Sun Gods to Gamma Rays, I didn't have an instrument. It was just a vocal mic, and I was just singing, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like I'm used to just truly playing a guitar up here while I'm singing. It's like I have this extra like project or whatever that I'm doing on stage. It felt like some safe haven, which, you know, performers who perform without an instrument, that takes a whole other level of musicianship. I'm like, however you do that and make it engaging and fun for people and emotive, holy crap, like those are some true performers, and I applaud them continuously because it's something that I'm always working on. It's easy to be self-deprecating and think that your performance isn't that good, and I tend to fall into that camp of being pretty hard on myself, and I have a lot of stage fright. I always have since I was a teenager, and still 34-year-old woman battling through it every day. And so I have friends who are like, you need to get out from behind the guitar and like practice being on stage and like fully being present, because it will just help your performance down the road, even if you have a guitar. So it was hard and interesting and fun and scary with Sun Gods doing
Absolutely.
That. And now I'm, back behind the guitar, I'm always trying to like channel that energy, but it's really like, it's scary out there on the stage.
It is. It's now it's scary for different reasons. Like, but it's definitely, I don't know, like it's definitely a thing, because like I, being in the lo-fi world, would always just kind of use shows to offset the cost of the product, which is cheaper to make when you're using really lo-fi equipment. But now, like, take that away, it becomes like, well, wait, what kind of art do I really want to make? Like, I always kind of saw myself more as a performance artist than a recording artist. Ooh, stand by. We're going to go back on the air here. Glass Ships by Andrew Thoreen of N and Ending, and Hardy Har featuring Lewis Murphy on that single. Speaking of new singles, Annie Fitzgerald, Under the Moon, that just came out, and the new Brianna Kocka here on KFAI. Also, shout out to 26 Bats. I know it's Bailey. It's their birthday. I was looking to play their new single, but I could not find a radio clean version. So Bailey or Carl, please send that to me so I can play it. Because I have been burned before. I have definitely played something where it's just like, oh yeah, it's the clean version, and then you're sitting there like, no, it's not. I really hope the FCC didn't listen to that. It is not for lack of trying. It is not out of malice. Please forgive me. But yes, local music there. So I love the flow of that track, and I want to ask let's talk about the personnel on this record. I love the lush orchestration and arrangements. Like, were you arranging that? Because you work with Holly Hansen, and she's a producer. I feel like anything she touches, I want to listen to, because I think she really has a cool ear for things. Were you arranging stuff with Holly? Did you come everything pre-arranged? Did you have it like the musicians would pitch ideas? Because you said you did this before COVID. So this is kind of like a traditional record. You didn't have to do it like virtually, or did you?
No, I did actually record it during COVID, and Holly wasn't involved at all. Holly has no other than listening for just helping me listen to masters. She really didn't do engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, so all of the engineering and mixing was done by Justin Muffett, who of Sovereignty Recording, and we mostly tracked it here. So we live together. We're partners. We have a mixed room here in our house. So in terms of that song, when it comes to arrangement, so I had written the song probably April of last year, like pretty soon after we started like going into quarantine-ish lockdown type scenarios on and off in the beginning of COVID. And I wrote it. And then I knew I wanted Lars Erik Larsson to play on it. I was like, he's the drummer for this project. I can just tell. And so I had approached him initially via email or maybe text or something, and said like, hey, do you want to maybe play on this project that I'm starting? I'm writing some new songs. So I sent him that song initially, and he was like, yeah, this is cool. I want to play on it. So he was the first person to really like get his hands on it. And he did some like drum auditioning remotely and like sent me some parts, and we like kind of worked through those parts. And then I waited until I had all of the other songs done before we really started doing any other arrangement. But what happened at that point was I sent Addie, this is really embarrassing. I don't know how to say her last name because we've never actually met in person. Stray, but I'm not sure. So Addie, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. This is super embarrassing. I'm a person with a weird last name, so I have no excuse. Same. So anyway, Addie, who played all the woodwinds and did some BGVs, I sent her the tracks, and she I gave her total free reign, and she wrote all of these amazing woodwinds that filled out the whole thing. She tracked it remotely between Eau Claire and her home here in Minneapolis, and she was kind of the first person to take like a real stab at the songs. So she kind of built on top of my guitar and vocals this whole like lush arrangement that's hers. We did like comp some stuff together and do some editing in post, just to get certain parts like a little bit more succinct and make sure they're like flowing between where the lyrics are happening and where other stuff was happening. But she was really the person that did like the majority of that kind of like composition stuff. And then I, in the producer seat, kind of like, helped like splice some stuff and get it in the right spot. And we did a lot of like production notes back and forth via email. And the fun part and the kind of weird part is that after her parts were tracked, everybody else tracked their parts based on her parts. So bass was like the last thing we tracked, which is super random. Usually it's like drums and bass are first, but like bass, Adam wrote all his parts around Addie's parts, and she wrote mine. The drums, Lars, like he had auditioned some stuff, but he went back and like rewrote a bunch of parts after her parts. So it was like a really interesting collaborative experience. And it was all done remotely. Except one day we rented Holly's studio, and Justin and I went in there with his Apollo and set up a bunch of mics, and we would track drums in like a 5 hour session where we were all masked and being paranoid and really worried that we were all going to get sick. Luckily nobody did. But so it was a whole other type of project. Like we were multi-tracking, but this is like in a totally different way than I've ever multi-tracked before, because we're getting sounds from like people's basements and like large and he was recording his beautiful baby grand piano with 2 mics in his loft. So it's just like we got all sorts of crazy sounds. It was really fun.
With the woodwind part, I just could not wrap my head around. It's like how do you write a woodwind part over top of this? And it makes so much more sense. It's like that we're like, wait a minute, we're keeping this and we're redoing. I was like, how do you capture that feeling? Because the woodwind part is crazy on that tune. Like I just like, and just the way everything kind of like segs into it and works together and kind of has a pocket. I was just blown away by capturing that live feeling virtually. So we were talking about performing live off mic in the virtual portion of the show. Is this material you feel like you're going to be performing live with, or are you just kind of like, you know what, we have 7 vinyls left, here it is, this is what we're doing?
It's a good question. The answer is yes. I have one show this year. I am not allowed to promote it yet because it hasn't been announced. So I'll give some hints. It's in October. It's outside. It's on a big stage. KFAI might be a sponsor of it. A sponsor of it. I will say no more, but I'm putting together a band where we're going to kind of marry the older, more folk Americana country songs with a couple of these newer ones, because I'm just like, you can't really like put out a new record and not play the songs. So I'm scared. I won't lie. I'm scared because it's, you know, like I would say 3 of the 5 songs are on the album are very different than my previous stuff. And like, even just like the guitar strumming patterns are like a little bit more challenging for me. I like write on a lot of waltzes and like a lot of like 3/4, and I have that on this album, but there's like some other stuff going on. So it's going to be a project to figure out how to translate it live. It's never, you know how it is. Nothing on an album is going to sound the same live, but we are going to have, Lars is on board. He's going to come play drums for the gig, and Cody McKinney, who plays with all sorts of amazing artists, is coming playing bass. He's an amazing jazz bassist. Feel very honored to have him playing. And I believe Addie is going to come. She's traveling all over the United States right now, and she's going to try and make it. So I'm hoping we can get some like cool layered woodwinds happening. And I have yet to put together the rest of the band, but we're going to try to do it live. And you guys can come and watch me fail if you would like.
No, it'll be great. It'll be great.
I'll give you the announcement when it's closer and we are going live with the details, but it's going to be a fun one.
Perfect. Well, if you like what you hear, where can listeners hear it again? Is this on all streaming services? Is this on website, Bandcamp, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's on Bandcamp for sure. So if people are feeling generous and want to help, like pay for a tank of gas, they can pop on there and buy a copy. It's $10, or they can buy vinyl. There's 7 left. It's $20. And then aside from that, all the streaming platforms, Tidal, Apple Music, Spotify, the usual suspects for sure.
you go. Well, speaking of live performing, I know we don't want to give any trade secrets, but we got some local music from well, actually we played with the last gig we played together. This artist was on the bill. We got some Joe Koppel. We also have some Matt Lateral coming up, so stick around for that. But first, we have a message from our friends here.
Programming on KFAI.
I keep forgetting to play these carts. I might need, so there's going to be like 3 of them. So stand by. But yeah, I think it was like the last time we played a show. What was it, like 2 years ago? I remember it was like somewhere near the Canadian border. I think it was.
We're in Grand Marais.
Yeah, Grand Marais, and
yeah,
like I just
like 3 years ago. It'll be like 3 years in September probably.
Yeah, it was like I remember. I just remember like going up, and it was like this wild west saloon, and like all the artists were like pulling up a chair, and like I just felt so grizzled because everyone was just like, yeah, I've never played here, and like you and I were both like, yeah, I got my van, I sleep in that thing, and like there was just like a little like everyone was just like, whoa, that's crazy.
You know, I was never paid for that show still to this day.
I have yet to be paid for that show. I said I was going to. And yeah, I
emailed the promoter, I emailed the bar owner. I'm pretty sure that bar is closed now, so that doesn't really bode well for any of us. But yeah, it was a disaster of a show. It was, you know, a weekly festival, and like nobody got paid because the promoter was being an a-hole. I hope I'm allowed to say that. I guess we're not on the radio.
No, we're on the internet now, so like we can kind of say. But yeah, that was like I think the most fun aspect of that weekend was like just being on the North Shore and like waking up early, like to do yoga by Lake Superior and then hike. But like, I think the highlight was just like hanging out with like you, because like I was just geeking out over your setup. Like it's just like, yeah, check out my van, and like we were just
yeah,
like, we had tours, and it was like
I sold it at the beginning of COVID because Zoe Prince Flash, I don't know if you know Zoe, but she's a beautiful photographer.
Amazing photographer.
She was looking for a van, and I was like, there's never going to be a more perfect opportunity to sell this to somebody who actually will use it for what it's, you know, otherwise I'd just be trading it in at some Ford dealership and it would just tear it apart. So that
would be a crime after all the work you put in.
Yeah. So she was interested in buying it. So I was like, this is a great opportunity. I'm not going to pass it up. So I sold the van, and I've been without a car for like almost a year. And it's kind of crazy. I bought a motor scooter, a 250cc motor scooter as like my replacement, but it's like you can't use that in the winter. So I think I'm going to buy a car this fall. But yeah, van life is not for me. You know, I think it's not really for most people.
I think kudos to you for actually trying it, because like I think I'm getting to the point where like I can't tell if van life is not for me or I just need a nicer van. But I don't know. Like touring is hard. Like you said earlier, like it is hard on your body. I don't think people understand that it like takes a physical toll from you.
Yeah.
And as much as the van, like, I'm glad I did it. That was like a thing. And I still have it. It definitely looks like if you look at my van now, it definitely looks like I took it on the road and lived in it. And it was, yeah, like so many of those experiences of just like playing a show, camping out in that thing, waking up by a lake, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is totally worth it. But there's also a bunch of other experiences where it's just like, I hate this thing so much.
I really, you know, it's funny because if I buy a new car, I'm probably going to buy another van.
I think I will too, but like I think either something electric for sure. But
yeah, I mean, I just loved like the Ford Transit Connect, you know, it's the little mini version of the Transits. I just love like how big the windshield was, and like even though you're low to the ground, you're like a little like I felt like a little grandma behind the wheel. I just liked how spacious it was, how tall the ceilings were, and they make a passenger version of the van. So I'm thinking if I can find a passenger version, I'll probably buy one because I love that freaking van, and you can get parts for them so easily because it's such a ubiquitous van when it comes to delivery stuff. So like everybody has parts for them. So and like they really hold their value. Like you can buy like a 2012 Transit for like 10 grand still, you know, it's almost years old. So I don't know. I think I'll probably end up buying a van. Justin gives me crap because he's just like, what are you going to use it for? And I'm just like, I'm going to just use it because I love it. Like, we love my van, man. I'm just a van person for sure.
Come on.
Yeah.
If I could use it for things.
You know, like the Dodge Caravans from the 90s that are like, I love them. I wish I could find a mid-condition version of one of those because they're just the coolest looking van ever. I love them, but I also am like, I don't want to buy a money pit, so we'll see. But I like cars from the 90s. I like cars from the 80s. Yeah. They just require a certain kind of upkeep that I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. So we'll see.
I am with you on the upkeep because there's definitely been some things owning a van that I had to learn that I didn't think I actually could learn. Like just like learning how to change parts out of the van. Like anytime there was like, this is like, all right, I can't be taking this to the shop every time something goes wrong. And there are certain things where I'm just like, oh, okay, I need a new fuel pump, huh? I'm probably gonna let you handle that. But like, like changing other stuff as like it's kind of fun, but at the same time, I don't know if I don't know. I guess I just need to admit I am not much of a car person. It's not that like I dislike them. I just like, to me they're like just tools, and I'm just like, all right, how do you get them to work? Okay, does it work? It's working. Cool. That's the extent. Like it when the check engine light goes on, I immediately look under the hood and be like, all right, the engine's still there. I checked it. Like that's the extent of like I know.
We all have special skills, and not all of us are going to be car mechanics. I think the nice thing about cars from like the 80s and earlier is like they often don't have super complicated computers in them, so you can actually like work on them and learn how to work on them. And you're like, it's almost like, you know, with like motorcycles, some are carbureted and some are fuel injected, and like knowing the difference between that kind of stuff, it's just those skills come, but they only come as much as you take the time to learn them. And I'm like, I like, this is why I pay a mechanic. Like I'm paying them for the service that they learn because I don't have that room in my brain. I'm not going to be able to figure this out. I mean, I did take small engines in high school, and it was actually really cool, and I learned a lot, but I'm just like, I don't know that I want to give my time to learn this thing.
That's perfectly valid, especially with stuff like that. Like when something is a 10-minute fix, it's just like you're paying someone who trained for so many years to make that an easy 10-minute fix. And like, so like, I think there's a lot of virtues in DIY, but there's also like a lot of virtues in just getting an education and knowing when you're in over your head as well. Cause like that is a valuable resource of just like, oh, you're really good at this thing. And I don't know, like, it's interesting how all cars have computers in it, because I feel like the two most misunderstood things on the planet that everyone uses are cars and computers, and now they're one thing, which is a super good idea if you're asking me.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. Technology has just advanced so far beyond what the the average person can comprehend. I feel like we're all just like beholden to the technology gods, just trying to like, I guess I'll just Control-Alt-Delete and see if that fixes the problem.
Right.
But I don't know. It's a blessing and a curse. It's so interesting that technology has been such a prominent part of our conversation today, but it's just a part of our life, you know, like.
Right. I mean, like, I guess we're using it to communicate. That's a thing.
That's the thing that's beautiful, right? Is like technology in the right hands can really break down barriers and create access for people that maybe don't have access. But that also assumes that people have access to internet or broadband. That, like, you know, there's just a lot of things that you have to think about, and I just it's almost ubiquitous on some level, but on the other hand, it's like, it's quite a privilege to have access in this way where probably a lot of people on the planet don't. So what do you do with that?
It's very true.
Support KFAI in style.
Got to get these carts in just because there's like 8 minutes left in the show.
It's all good.
All right.
Visit KFAI.org/shop to see all.
Trying to see what songs I have to cut.
Programming is supported by Twin Cities.
After this, I think we'll probably only have time for one more break because Democracy Now! Is on after this, and I have to make sure that starts on time. So let's just kind of reiterate the who, what's, and where's, and why's on your record so listeners can hear that.
Cool.
Okay, so we heard Bat for Lashes right there. We also heard Matt Lateral, All Partied Out off of Phase and Field, and Joe Koppel off of Topics. And right now, well, I've been making a mixtape for Brianna Kocka, who is talking to me both virtually and on the air. So we are running out of time here. So is there anything you would like the listeners to know before we go here?
Yeah, I guess I just would love if people are interested in the tunes for them to scope them out. This record is a different vibe than some past ones. I think it kind of marries some of my like Sun Gods to Gamma Rays stuff with like some of my more like interest in jazz and bossa nova with like folky kind of like whatever. It's definitely not country music. So yeah, if people want to scope it out, they can do that on my Bandcamp, briannakocka.bandcamp.com. There's a couple music videos up on my YouTube if people want to watch those. They're all made with public domain footage that I found on the internet, and they're pretty fun to watch. Otherwise, you can stream it in all the spots. And like a follow on any streaming service is like independent artists, musicians gold. So please just tap that follow button. And give it a spin. That'd be great.
Like and subscribe. Thank you for coming back on the show. I always love hanging out with you, and hopefully we can actually do it in person safely. But also no rush. I feel like we're all in that we're like, I don't know, like now that things are starting to opening up, I feel like there's like this whole contingency of people who are like, oh, I can't wait for things to open up. And now that things are like, people are like, well, wait, not like that. Like, I don't know about that.
I would definitely be one of those people in that contingency where it's like, it felt like the CDC has like swung on this pendulum where it's like, no. And now it's like, oh yeah, everyone's pretty much fine if you're vaccinated. But like, if you're not, then you should wear a mask. And it's like, I don't know, there's this, anyway, whatever. I don't need to get into the 22 of the whole thing, but it's scary. And I've like probably become a little bit more agoraphobic over the past year and a half in lockdown, and have to do the work to like go and like mentally prepare myself. Like, okay, we are re-entering society. It's okay. There are always risks to being out in the world. We have to acknowledge that and learn that just because there's risks doesn't mean that we're not safe. So it's scary, and I hope that we all just do it gracefully and kindly as we're all trying to navigate how to be back in the world together.
Kindness is key. Like, there's been can we all just assume everyone around us is trying their best and just start from there? And I think this whole thing will go a lot smoother than you think it is. But just start from the basis of like people are trying their best. Give them time, and myself included. Brianna, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think we will play ourselves out with a little bit of Frightened Rabbit here. Next week, I have Kiss the Tiger. Stay tuned for Democracy Now! Yeah, I have no idea what is going on with re-entering society. Like I'm like both ready and I'm like not. Yeah. Like I have shows booked this summer and I'm like psyched, but at the same time I'm just like, what am I doing? Like is this okay? Like
it's interesting because I just COVID was a really nice reset for me. I mean, I've always had the studio bug. I'd rather just be in the studio instead of playing shows. I know playing shows is a part of the deal. But I'm like only booking one. I'm booking one for 2021 and that is it. And I'm waiting. I'm waiting till October because I don't trust it yet. I'm not sure that we won't have an increase in infections again, or the variant might like cause some sort of wacky something for vaccinated folks. So I'm kind of just like wait and see. In 2022, I'll probably get back to trying to do stuff more regularly. It's been really scary, like flying to Montana.
You flew?
Oh yeah. And that was like a whole scary thing where I was just like, I hope I have an autoimmune disease, so like I'm vaccinated, and I was just like, I hope I don't get sick. I know if I get sick, I probably won't die, which is great. Yeah. But like, it just was scary. But I also was like, I think I had to weigh the risk with like the need, and the need was like my mental health needs to hang out with this person, my sister, like one of my best friends. Like, so I think that's the balance is we all need to assume good intent, and like everyone is trying their hardest to do the right thing for them. It might look different than what we choose. It's part of our job as humans to like respect people's boundaries. Hopefully other people can respect other people's boundaries. But yeah, it's a scary time. It's hard to navigate for sure.
That was the thing that I just couldn't wrap my head around, was like when people were like so obsessed about like, I need to do what's right for me. I'm like, no, totally. We're all on that page. What I don't get is like the amount of people like crossing people's boundaries just to get their opinion across. And it's just like, all right, why are you sending me this email? Or why are you like, it's just like you have one conversation about masks and like that person just sends you like email propaganda where it's just like, all right, like that's not, I don't even remember talking about this. Why am I getting like, just like, can we all chill out? Like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not. I will say like, do what you think is right, but like respect people's boundaries. Let people do what they think is right too. Like, and I mean, I
think this has been like, hopefully for a lot of folks, this has been like a really tangible lesson in consent and like how to respect people's boundaries, how to listen to understand other people, how to acknowledge that we all have different experiences in the world, and it's okay to accommodate people who may feel differently than you. And it goes both ways. Like it's, I'm a mask person. I've always been a mask person, and people who aren't mask people, I don't really get that. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to respect that you aren't going to do this thing. And I'm going to try my hardest to understand it and not just, I don't know, just listen to understand. It's just, I think it's a smart thing that all of us could use some work in. It doesn't necessarily, I don't know that I believe in right and wrong, like from a perspective, like ethically, it's just really complicated. But at the end of the day, I also think like public health matters, and we live in a society, and we should all be thinking about the greater good of the society, not just like the one person who wants one thing. So it's just a weird math equation to try and figure out. But I just holed up in my house the whole time and just was like, peace out. I'm going to pay 30% tip for the people who are out in the world doing the thing because I'm privileged.
Oh, yeah.
And I just kind of stayed in my little bubble, my little hidden bubble. It was just Justin and I. We didn't have any people in our bubble. And how we survived, just the two of us, is amazing.
I think that's a good sign that it's cool that y'all are buying a house together.
Yeah.
I think y'all passed the test. Like, you passed the mission in that regard.
Yeah.
So, well, it's great to hear that. I look forward to what's going to come out of your basement studio as well, and I look forward to seeing that show. And now that the show's over, I'm not going to try to pry details out of you, so don't worry about that.
I would, like, literally, my publicist would like murder me if I said anything. So
I get it.
I probably already said too much. So I'm like, I'll just do it in October, and that's all
It's crazy. Like, one more anecdote before we go. What's crazy of like how small of a town this is like sometimes when we get these things together, like not only is the artist my friend, but the publicist is my friend, and like it'll be like a point where like we just finished the on-air interview and then like I'll get a text from the publicist. We're like, will you tell them that it's not the 27th, it is the 28th? like I'm just like, oh, also remind them to bring up this and this. And it's just like, it wasn't this studio, it was this. It's just like that. It's just, so it's like kind of funny.
It's the beauty of small town Minnesota, you know, like Minneapolis is a big little town and we all kind of know each other. So it's a blessing and a curse probably on some levels, but I would say mostly a blessing. So
it's definitely a blessing. And also, like, as someone who grew up on the East Coast, that whole big little small town thing, that happens anywhere. Like if you talk to any artist in any city on the East Coast, like once you just immerse yourself in a certain community, everything kind of becomes a big small town. Yeah. Like I hear my friends who live in New York talk about this, you know, like it's just like, especially when like every genre is available and like you kind of like get into this hyper specific genre thing, and then like that becomes a little community. It's like a little fractalized community, and it's just like, it's the same thing everywhere. You know, you're not gonna outrun those problems just by moving. Like it's just it's just a thing. Like, but I don't know. All right, I have to sign off now that we're in Democracy Now! Times, and also I have to teach lessons.
Well, thanks again for having me. It was really good.
Thanks for doing it. It was really good to see you, and I hope those 7 vinyls disappear real quick here.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good to see you. Talk to you soon.
See ya. Now I'm like,